Jake Morrison stood at the window of the control room and watched the sky turn dark. It was not clouds that blocked the sun over Kepler Colony. It was something much worse. The alien ship hung above them like a giant metal beast ready to strike. Jake had seen pictures of these ships before, but seeing one in real life made his stomach feel cold. The ship was huge and black and covered with strange lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Amy Carter sat at her computer screen, and her fingers moved fast over the keys. She was trying to send messages to Earth, but the alien ship was blocking all their signals. They were alone now, and help would not come. "How many people are in the colony?" Jake asked Amy, without taking his eyes off the alien ship. 847 people, including the children, Amy said, and her voice shook a little. "The defense grid is online, but it will not do much good against that thing." Jake knew she was right. Their small colony had some weapons, but they were made to fight off wild animals and small raiders. The alien ship above them could destroy their entire settlement in minutes. The aliens were called Zephyrians, and they had been attacking human colonies for 2 years now. Every colony they visited was completely destroyed and everyone killed. Dr. Peter Hughes ran into the control room with papers flying behind him. His face was red, and he was breathing hard. "I have been reading all the reports from other colonies," he said. "The Zephyrians always give the same choice: surrender completely or die. No colony has ever survived contact with them." Jake turned away from the window and looked at Peter. "What do you mean, surrender completely?" "They want us to become their slaves," Peter said. "The humans who surrender get taken away and we never hear from them again. The reports say the Zephyrians use slave labor to mine their planets." Amy stopped typing and looked up from her screen. "The other colonies tried to fight, and they tried to surrender. Nothing worked. The Zephyrians killed everyone anyway." Jake felt his jaw tighten. He had come to Kepler Colony 3 years ago to help build a new life for humans among the stars. The planet was beautiful, with purple grass and silver trees that sang in the wind. The colonists had worked hard to build homes and farms and schools. They had made friends with the local animals and learned to live in harmony with the strange new world. Now all of that was about to end. "Sir," Amy said and pointed at her screen, "I am getting movement from the alien ship. They are launching smaller ships." Jake looked out the window again and saw dozens of small, dark shapes dropping from the main ship like angry insects. The smaller ships moved fast and spread out over the colony. Each one was still bigger than any human ship and carried enough firepower to level city blocks. "Get on the colony-wide communication system," Jake told Amy. "Tell everyone to stay calm and stay inside. Tell them we are going to try to talk to the aliens." Amy looked at him like he was crazy. "Talk to them? Sir, they have never talked to any human colony before. They just attack." "Maybe the other colonies did something wrong," Jake said, but even he did not believe it. The reports were clear. The Zephyrians had killed men, women, and children without any mercy. They had burned down hospitals and schools and churches. They had shown no interest in communication or negotiation, but Jake was not ready to give up. Not yet. Dr. Peter Hughes pushed his glasses up on his nose and opened one of his files. According to the intelligence reports, the Zephyrians are about 8 feet tall with black armor that looks like insect shells. They carry energy weapons that can cut through steel. Their leader is someone called General Thaxmore, and he has personally destroyed 17 human settlements. 17, Jake repeated. That was 17 communities just like theirs. 17 groups of families and friends and dreams, all wiped out by this one alien commander. The smaller alien ships were landing now in the colony's main square. Jake could see them through the window settling down on the purple grass like giant metal spiders. Steam rose from their landing engines, and the grass around them turned black and died. "I count 12 landing ships," Amy said. "That could be anywhere from 50 to 200 alien soldiers." Jake made a decision that he knew might be the last one he ever made. "I am going out there." "Sir, you cannot," Amy said, and stood up from her chair. "They will kill you the moment they see you." "Maybe," Jake said, "but maybe not. Someone has to try to talk to them, and I am the commander of this colony. It is my job." Peter Hughes shook his head. "Jake, this is suicide. The Zephyrians do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They just kill." "Then we are going to die anyway," Jake said. "At least this way I can look them in the eye and try to make them understand that we are not their enemies." Jake walked to the weapons locker and took out his sidearm. Then he thought better of it and put the weapon back. If he was going to try to talk to the aliens, he should not be carrying a gun. He straightened his uniform and checked his translation device. Every human colony had universal translators that could handle most known alien languages, including Zephyrian. "Amy, open a channel to all the colony leaders," Jake said. "Tell them what is happening and tell them to keep everyone calm. If this goes badly, I do not want panic to make things worse." Amy nodded and started sending messages. Jake could hear her talking to Lisa Brooks, the head of the Civilian Council, and Danny Rodriguez, who ran the farming operations. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see her hands shaking as she typed. The alien ships had finished landing, and Jake could see movement around them. Dark shapes were coming out of the ships and forming up in military formations. Even from a distance, Jake could see they were huge and moved with the precision of trained soldiers. "Sir," Amy said, "Captain Lisa Brooks is asking if she should evacuate the children to the emergency shelters." Jake thought about it. The emergency shelters were built deep underground and could protect people from storms and radiation. But if the Zephyrians decided to destroy the colony, the shelters would just become tombs. "Tell her to gather the children in the community center," Jake said. "If we are going to die, I want families to be together." Jake walked toward the door of the control room and stopped. He turned back to look at Amy and Peter. "If something happens to me, do not try to fight them. Find a way to protect the colonists. Maybe surrender really is the only option." "Jake," Peter said, "you are a good man and a good commander. Whatever happens out there, remember that you tried to do the right thing." Jake nodded and opened the door. The hallway outside was quiet, but he could hear voices and footsteps from other parts of the building. People were scared, but they were not panicking. That was good. Jake had always been proud of the colonists and how they handled problems. He walked through the building and toward the main entrance. Through the windows, he could see the alien soldiers moving closer. They were exactly as the reports described them. Tall and covered in black armor that looked like the shell of some giant beetle. They carried weapons that glowed with blue energy and moved in perfect formation. Jake reached the main door and put his hand on the handle. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was clear. He was about to meet humanity's greatest enemy face to face. He was probably about to die, but he was not afraid. He was the commander of Kepler Colony, and these people were his responsibility. Jake opened the door and stepped outside into the purple grass under the alien sky. General Thaxamore stepped out of his command ship and felt the strange gravity of the human world pull at his armor. The planet was different from others he had conquered. Most worlds were either dead rocks or jungle hellholes that fought back against any attempt at civilization. This world seemed almost peaceful with its purple vegetation and clean air. But peace was weakness, and weakness had to be destroyed. Thaxamore had killed more humans than any other Zephyrian commander. He had learned their patterns and their failures. Humans were soft creatures who cried and begged when faced with superior force. They made emotional decisions instead of logical ones. They valued individual lives over strategic advantage. These weaknesses made them easy to defeat. The Zephyrian general checked his weapon systems and signaled his troops to advance. His armor's tactical display showed the layout of the human settlement. 847 life signs scattered throughout various buildings. Standard defensive positions around the perimeter, but nothing that could threaten Zephyrian battle armor. Captain Veltar approached and saluted. General, the settlement appears to be following standard human defensive protocols. They have activated energy shields around key buildings and positioned their limited weapons at strategic points, just like all the others, Thaxamore said through his helmet's communication system. Humans always make the same mistakes. They think defensive positions will save them from superior firepower. Thaxamore had destroyed 17 human colonies using the same basic strategy. Land overwhelming force in the settlement center. Demand immediate surrender. When the humans inevitably refused or tried to negotiate, kill them all as an example to other colonies. The pattern never changed, because humans never learned. The Zephyrian troops formed up behind their general as they marched toward the human buildings. Each soldier stood over 8 feet tall and carried enough weapons to destroy a small army. Their black armor could withstand most human weapons, and their energy rifles could cut through steel and concrete like paper. General, Veltar said. Long range sensors detect a single human approaching our position. Thaxamore looked at his tactical display and saw the red dot moving toward them. One human? What are their weapons readings? No weapons detected, sir, Veltar replied. The human appears to be unarmed. This was new. In previous colonies, humans had either hidden in their buildings or sent out groups of soldiers to try to fight. No human had ever approached a Zephyrian force alone and unarmed. Thaxamore's tactical programming tried to analyze this behavior, but found no matching patterns in his combat database. It could be a trap, Veltar suggested. Perhaps the human is carrying concealed explosives or some kind of biological weapon. Thaxmore considered this possibility, but his sensors would have detected any hidden weapons or dangerous materials. The approaching human showed no signs of deception or hostile intent. If anything, the human's biosigns indicated unusual calm for someone facing certain death. The Zephyrian formation continued advancing toward the center of the human settlement. Thaxmore could see faces in the windows of nearby buildings. Men, women, and children watching the approach of their destroyers. But these faces did not show the terror he expected. Instead, they showed curiosity and something else he could not identify. General, one of his squad leaders, reported, "The humans in this buildings are not taking defensive positions. They appear to be simply observing us." This was definitely not normal human behavior. When Zephyrian forces had attacked other colonies, the humans had either fled in panic or prepared desperate last stands. These humans seemed almost calm about the approach of overwhelming enemy force. Thaxmore's armor systems automatically targeted the approaching human figure. The targeting computer identified the figure as a male human approximately 6 feet in height, wearing what appeared to be some kind of uniform. No weapons, no armor, no signs of fear or aggressive intent. "Should I eliminate the approaching human?" Veltar asked. Thaxmore hesitated. Standard protocol was to kill any human who approached Zephyrian forces, but something about this situation felt different. The human was not running or hiding or begging for mercy. He was walking straight toward them with steady, purposeful steps. "Hold your fire," Thaxmore ordered. "I want to see what this human is planning to do." The human stopped about 50 feet from the Zephyrian formation and stood perfectly still. Thaxmore could see the human's face clearly now. It was a mature male, with graying hair and calm eyes. The human looked directly at Thaxmore without flinching or showing any signs of fear. This was impossible. Humans always showed fear when confronted with Zephyrian warriors. Fear was their defining characteristic and their greatest weakness, but this human's biosigns showed steady heartbeat and controlled breathing. Either the human was somehow suppressing his natural fear response or he genuinely was not afraid. "I am Commander Jake Morrison of Kepler Colony," the human said through a translation device. His voice was clear and steady. "I know who you are, General Thaxmore, and I know why you are here." Thaxmore raised his energy weapon and pointed it directly at the human's chest. At this range, the weapon would not just kill the human, but would vaporize him completely. Yet the human called Morrison did not step back or show any change in his calm expression. "You are here to destroy us," Morrison continued. "You have destroyed 17 other human settlements and killed thousands of innocent people. I cannot stop you from killing us, but I can ask you to listen to what I have to say first." No human had ever spoken to Thaxmore like this before. Previous colony leaders had either begged for mercy or shouted defiant threats. This human was doing neither. He was speaking as if he was addressing an equal rather than a superior enemy force. "You have 60 seconds to explain why I should not kill you immediately," Thaxmore said through his translator. "Because we are not like the other colonies you have destroyed," Morrison replied. We have built something here that is different. Something that might interest you and your people. Thaxmore's tactical analysis could not process this response. Humans always claimed to be different or special when facing death, but they never offered anything of actual value to Zephyrian forces. What could this small colonial settlement possibly have that would interest the most advanced military force in the galaxy? Behind Morrison, other humans were emerging from the buildings, but they were not soldiers or armed civilians. They appeared to be families with children and elderly people. They gathered behind their commander, but they did not seem afraid. Children pointed at the Zephyrian warriors with what looked like curiosity rather than terror. Your time is running out, Thaxmore warned Morrison. Look around you, General, Morrison said. Look at this world and what we have built here. Look at how the local life forms react to our presence. Look at what we have accomplished in 3 years. Thaxmore's sensors automatically scanned the surrounding area. The readings were unusual. Most human colonies showed signs of environmental damage and resource depletion. Strip mining operations and industrial pollution were standard features of human expansion. But this settlement showed something different. The local ecosystem appeared to be thriving. Plant life was actually more abundant around the human buildings than in untouched areas. Animal life signs were numerous and showed no signs of stress or displacement. The humans had somehow managed to expand their settlement without damaging the planet's natural systems. This is irrelevant, Thaxmore said, but his voice carried less certainty than before. Is it? Morrison asked. Your people conquer worlds by destroying them and taking what you need. We came here as guests and partners. We have actually improved this world while living on it. A small creature that looked like a flying snake landed on Morrison's shoulder. The creature should have been terrified of the Zephyrian presence, but instead it seemed completely comfortable with the human. More of the creatures appeared around the other humans, and they showed no fear at all. Thaxmore had never seen anything like this before. Local wildlife always fled from military operations. The fact that these creatures were comfortable around both humans and Zephyrians suggested something unusual about the relationship between the colonists and their environment. 40 seconds, Thaxmore said, but his weapon remained trained on Morrison's chest. Morrison smiled, and the expression was genuine rather than desperate. General, you have the power to destroy us, but you also have the opportunity to learn something new, something that might change how your people think about conquest and expansion. For the first time in his military career, General Thaxmore found himself uncertain about what to do next. Jake Morrison took one step closer to the massive alien general and felt the heat from the energy weapon pointed at his chest. The weapon was easily capable of killing him instantly, but Jake did not step back. He had made his choice, and now he had to see it through to whatever end awaited him. 20 seconds, General Thaxmore announced through his translator. Jake nodded and gestured toward Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been waiting near the community center. Sarah approached slowly, carrying a small device in her hands. She was one of the colony's best scientists and had been working on something special for the past year. Dr. Kim is going to show you something that no other human colony has been able to achieve, Jake said. Something that might make you reconsider your assumptions about my species. Sarah activated the device, and a holographic display appeared. In the air between the humans and the Zephyrian forces, the display showed images of Kepler colony from the day the first colonists arrived 3 years ago. The planet had been beautiful but largely empty. Purple grasslands stretched to the horizon with scattered silver trees and small streams. When we arrived here, we had a choice, Jake explained. We could take what we wanted from this world, or we could learn to live with it. Most human colonies choose the first option because it is faster and easier. The holographic display shifted to show the early days of construction, but instead of the massive bulldozers and strip mining operations that characterized most colonial expansion, the images showed careful planning and selective building. The colonists had studied the local ecosystem for months before placing their first buildings. We spent our first year just watching and learning, Sarah Kim said through her translator. We studied the migration patterns of the flying serpents. We mapped the root systems of the silver trees. We learned which areas were breeding grounds for local wildlife and which areas could support human construction without causing damage. General Thaxmore's weapon remained trained on Jake, but the alien commander was clearly studying the holographic images. Zephyrian expansion typically involved rapid strip mining and industrial development with no regard for local ecosystems. The careful, methodical approach shown in the images was completely foreign to Zephyrian military doctrine. The flying serpents migrate through this area twice each year, Sarah continued as the display showed the graceful snake-like creatures soaring between the silver trees. Instead of driving them away or killing them, we designed our buildings to accommodate their flight patterns. The serpents now nest in our structures and help control the local insect population. The display showed close-up images of the serpent nests built into the eaves and overhangs of human buildings. Adult serpents tended their eggs while human children watched from windows. There was no fear on either side, just peaceful coexistence. Captain. Veltar stepped closer to his general and spoke in urgent tones. Sir, this is clearly some kind of deception. Humans are not capable of this level of ecological integration. But Thaxmore's sensors were scanning the area constantly and confirming everything the humans claimed. The flying serpents were indeed nesting in human structures. The local plant life showed increased growth rates around human buildings. Even the soil composition indicated improved health rather than the depletion typically caused by industrial development. Show him the agricultural data, Jake said to Sarah. The holographic display shifted to show the colony's farming operations. Instead of vast monoculture fields, the humans had created a complex network of diverse crops that seemed to work together. Native plants grew alongside earth vegetables in patterns that looked almost artistic. We learned that the native purple grass has nitrogen-fixing properties similar to earth legumes, Sarah explained. By integrating it with our food crops, we have increased yields by 40%, while actually improving soil quality. The silver trees provide natural pest control and wind protection. Dr. Peter Hughes emerged from the crowd carrying a data pad filled with 3 years of ecological measurements. General, our presence on this world has increased biodiversity by 17%. We have introduced 23 Earth species that now live in harmony with over 40 native species. The overall ecosystem is healthier and more stable than when we arrived. Thaxmore's tactical computer processed this information against Zephyrian expansion protocols. Every world the Zephyrians conquered showed massive ecological damage within the first year of occupation. Strip mining and industrial development invariably destroyed local ecosystems and rendered planets less valuable over time. But these humans had somehow made their world more valuable by living on it. "This is impossible," Veltar insisted. "Humans are a destructive species. Our intelligence reports confirm this." "Your intelligence reports are based on observations of other human colonies," Jake said. "Colonies that were desperate and afraid. Colonies that had to choose between survival and ecological protection. We had the luxury of time to do things differently." A group of children approached from the community center, led by teacher Amy Carter. The children showed no fear of the massive alien warriors, and several of them carried small creatures that looked like fuzzy purple balls with tiny wings. "These are baby flufflings," one of the children explained to General Thaxmore. "They were orphaned when a storm damaged their nest. We have been taking care of them until they are old enough to survive on their own." The child held up one of the baby creatures, and it chirped softly. The sound was surprisingly musical, and several adult flufflings emerged from nearby trees to respond with similar calls. The baby creatures were clearly healthy and well cared for. Thaxmore had conquered worlds where the local wildlife fled or attacked any sentient presence. He had never seen indigenous creatures show trust toward any off-world species. The fact that these small animals allowed human children to handle them suggested a level of interspecies cooperation that defied everything he knew about colonial expansion. "Our children learn about local ecosystems as part of their regular education," Amy Carter explained. "They study the life cycles of native species and help with conservation efforts. Many of our best ecological discoveries have come from observations made by our youngest colonists." The holographic display showed time-lapse images of the colony's development over 3 years. Instead of the typical pattern of expansion and environmental destruction, the images showed a settlement that seemed to grow naturally from the landscape. Human buildings blended with native vegetation. Artificial structures provided habitat for local wildlife. The boundary between human and natural spaces became increasingly blurred over time. "We call it symbiotic development," Sarah Kim said. "Instead of imposing our needs on the environment, we adapt our technology to work with natural systems. The result is more efficient, more sustainable, and ultimately more profitable than traditional colonial methods." Rick Santos, the colony's chief engineer, stepped forward with examples of their adaptive technology. Solar collectors that mimicked the shapes of native flowers. Water recycling systems based on root structures of silver trees. Building materials created from processed native vegetation that continued to support local ecosystems even after construction. "Our energy efficiency is 93% higher than standard colonial installations," Rick explained. "Our water usage is 60% lower. Our waste production has been reduced to nearly zero through biological recycling systems. General Thaxmore lowered his weapon slightly. The tactical data was overwhelming, and it all supported the human claims. This colony had achieved resource efficiency levels that exceeded anything in Zephyrian military databases. They had done it while maintaining and improving local ecosystems rather than destroying them. Why? Thaxmore asked. Why did you choose this path when other human colonies chose rapid expansion and resource extraction? Jake Morrison smiled and gestured toward the thriving community around them. Because we understood something that other colonies miss, General. True strength comes not from taking everything you can, but from building something that will last. We did not come here as conquerors. We came here as gardeners. For the first time in his career, General Thaxmore found himself facing a problem that could not be solved with superior firepower. The silence stretched across the purple grassland as General Thaxmore's weapon slowly powered down. The blue energy glow faded from the barrel, and for the first time since landing, the Zephyrian commander was not actively targeting a human for elimination. His fellow warriors exchanged confused glances through their helmet displays but maintained their positions waiting for orders. Jake Morrison watched the alien general's body language carefully. He had spent months studying reports about Zephyrian behavior, and he could see that something fundamental had shifted in Thaxmore's approach. The rigid military posture had relaxed slightly, and the general's sensor array was now focused on scanning the colony rather than identifying targets. "You present us with a tactical problem, Commander Morrison," Thaxmore said through his translator. "Our standard protocols assume that all human settlements follow predictable patterns of development and resource exploitation. Your colony does not fit any of our analytical models." Captain Veltar stepped forward and his voice carried obvious frustration. "General, with respect, our orders are clear. All human settlements in this sector are to be eliminated or subjugated. The specific methods they use for development are irrelevant to our mission parameters." Thaxmore turned his massive armored form toward his second-in-command. "Are they irrelevant, Captain? Our long-term strategic goals require sustainable resource extraction from conquered territories. If these humans have developed superior methods of resource management, should we not at least investigate their techniques before destroying them?" "Sir, the High Command expects a standard compliance report within 2 hours, Veltar reminded his general. "We are already behind schedule." Jake could see the internal conflict playing out between the two alien officers. Military discipline and standard operating procedures were fighting against intellectual curiosity and strategic thinking. He decided to provide more information that might tip the balance in favor of continued dialogue. "General Thaxmore, may I show you our industrial production data?" Jake said. "I think you will find our efficiency rating surprising." Sarah Kim activated another section of her holographic display showing detailed production statistics from the colony's 3 years of operation. The numbers were impressive even by Earth standards and clearly exceeded anything the Zephyrians had seen from human colonies. "Our rare metal extraction rates are 40% higher than typical mining operations," Sarah explained. "But we achieve this through selective harvesting that actually strengthens the remaining ore deposits." Our manufacturing processes produce zero toxic waste because everything is recycled through biological systems. The holographic display showed the colony's mining operations, which looked nothing like the massive strip mines that characterized most industrial worlds. Instead of giant excavators and environmental destruction, the humans used precision extraction techniques that removed only specific materials while leaving ecosystems intact. Impossible, Veltar stated. High-yield extraction requires massive industrial infrastructure and environmental disruption. These readings must be falsified. Dr. Peter Hughes approached with a portable scanning device. Captain, you are welcome to verify our data using your own sensors. We have nothing to hide because we have developed nothing that could threaten your forces. Peter handed the scanning device to Veltar, who examined it suspiciously before running it over various objects in the colony. The device confirmed everything the humans had claimed. High-efficiency extraction, zero waste production, enhanced ecosystem stability. The readings were accurate, and they represented a level of technological sophistication that exceeded Zephyrian industrial standards. How is this possible? Thaxmore asked. Zephyrian engineering represents the pinnacle of galactic industrial development. How could a small human colony achieve superior efficiency ratings? Jake Morrison walked closer to the alien general and gestured toward the thriving settlement around them. Because we had different priorities, General. You developed your technology to achieve maximum short-term resource extraction for military expansion. We developed our technology to create permanent, sustainable communities that could last for generations. Amy Carter emerged from a nearby building accompanied by elderly colonist Helen Walsh, who walked with the aid of a carved wooden cane. Helen had been one of the original settlers and had spent her long life studying indigenous ecosystems on frontier worlds. Young man, Helen said, addressing General Thaxmore as if he was simply another visitor to the colony. I have been studying alien ecosystems for 60 years, and I can tell you that cooperation always produces better results than domination. This planet taught us that lesson, and we were wise enough to listen. Thaxmore found himself looking down at the small, elderly human woman who showed no fear despite being surrounded by heavily armed alien warriors. Her calm confidence reminded him of veteran Zephyrian commanders who had seen enough combat to lose their fear of death. You speak of cooperation with a non-sentient ecosystem, Thaxmore said. How is such cooperation possible when the other party cannot communicate or negotiate? Helen smiled and pointed her cane toward a group of silver trees that surrounded the colony's main square. Those trees are over 300 years old, General. They have survived ice ages and volcanic eruptions and meteor impacts. They know things about survival that we are only beginning to understand. As if responding to her words, the silver trees began to emit a low musical humming sound. The sound was barely audible, but it created a harmony that seemed to resonate through the ground itself. Other colonists stopped their activities to listen, and even some of the Zephyrian warriors turned their sensors toward the trees. The trees communicate through subsonic vibrations transmitted through their root systems, Dr. Sarah Kim explained. They share information about weather patterns, soil conditions, and potential threats across hundreds of miles. By learning to interpret, Their signals, we can predict environmental changes weeks in advance. The holographic display showed a map of the planet's weather systems with overlaid data about tree communication patterns. The correlation was remarkable. The tree's root network functioned as a planet-wide early warning system for climate events. We learned to work with this natural intelligence rather than ignoring it, Sarah continued. Our agricultural planning now incorporates tree predictions, and our success rates have improved dramatically. Captain Veltar's frustration was becoming obvious, even through his armor's voice modulation. General, this is fascinating but irrelevant to our mission. We have orders to eliminate this settlement and establish a Zephyrian mining operation. The High Command will not accept delays based on curiosity about human agricultural techniques. Thaxmore considered his captain's words, but his tactical computer was still processing the implications of everything he had observed. The humans had achieved resource extraction efficiency that exceeded Zephyrian standards while maintaining ecosystem stability. They had developed prediction systems that could provide strategic advantages for long-term planning. They had created sustainable development models that could be applied to other worlds. Captain, open a secure channel to the High Command, Thaxmore ordered. I need to speak directly with Strategic Planning Division. Sir, that is highly irregular, Veltar protested. Standard protocol requires elimination of the human settlement before any strategic consultation. Standard protocol assumes that human settlements have nothing of value to offer Zephyrian expansion goals, Thaxmore replied. That assumption may need to be reevaluated. Jake Morrison felt a surge of hope as he watched the alien commander make his decision. The general was choosing to question orders rather than blindly following protocol. It was exactly the kind of independent thinking that separated good leaders from simple soldiers. General, Jake said, if you are going to contact your superiors, may I suggest you also speak with our ecological specialists? We have developed techniques that could be adapted for Zephyrian use on other worlds. Techniques that would increase your resource yields while reducing long-term environmental costs. Thaxmore looked at Jake with something that might have been respect. You would share your technological advances with an enemy force that came here to destroy you. You are not our enemy, General, Jake replied. You are a representative of another species trying to survive in a hostile galaxy. If we can help each other survive, then perhaps we can avoid being enemies at all. For the first time in his military career, General Thaxmore was preparing to disobey direct orders from the High Command. General Thaxmore activated his long-range communications array and established a direct link to the Zephyrian High Command. The connection took several minutes to establish across the vast distance between Kepler Colony and the Zephyrian home worlds. During the wait, Thaxmore found himself studying the human settlement with new eyes. Children played near alien wildlife that should have fled from any military presence. Gardens flourished where tactical doctrine said only defensive positions should exist. The entire colony represented a fundamental challenge to everything Thaxmore had been taught about inferior species and their capabilities. High Command, this is General Thaxmore requesting immediate strategic consultation, he said when the connection finally stabilized. The response came from Admiral Coraxtel, commander of the expansion fleet, and Thaxmore's direct superior. General, your compliance report is overdue. What is your status on the human elimination operation? Admiral, I am requesting permission to establish a temporary research protocol before proceeding with standard elimination procedures, Thaxmore said carefully. The human settlement has demonstrated technological capabilities that may be relevant to our long-term expansion goals. The silence from high command lasted nearly 30 seconds. Captain Veltar shifted nervously in his armor while the human colonists waited to learn their fate. Jake Morrison maintained his calm expression, but Thaxmore could see the tension in the human commander's posture. General Thaxmore, you are requesting permission to delay a direct order for research purposes, Admiral Coraxtel finally responded. This is unprecedented. Explain your reasoning immediately. Thaxmore accessed his tactical computer's recorded data from the past hour and transmitted the files to High Command. The ecological statistics, agricultural efficiency ratings, and resource extraction data painted a picture that he knew would challenge Zephyrian assumptions about human capabilities. Admiral, the humans have achieved resource extraction efficiency levels that exceed our own industrial standards, Thaxmore reported. They have done this while maintaining ecosystem stability and establishing sustainable long-term development patterns. These techniques could be adapted for Zephyrian expansion operations. Another long silence followed as the High Command analyzed the transmitted data. Thaxmore could imagine the heated discussions taking place in the command chambers, light years away. Military doctrine was colliding with strategic opportunity, and the outcome would determine the fate of both species. General, these readings are impressive, but humans are known for deception and data manipulation, Admiral Coraxtel said. How can you verify the accuracy of their claims? Admiral, I am transmitting independent sensor readings taken by our own equipment, Thaxmore replied. The data has been verified through multiple sources and cross-referenced with our intelligence databases. The human achievements are legitimate. Jake Morrison stepped closer to the alien general and spoke in a voice loud enough for the communication system to pick up. Admiral Coraxtel, this is Commander Jake Morrison of Kepler Colony. On behalf of all human settlements in this sector, I would like to propose a formal ceasefire and cultural exchange agreement. The suggestion was so unexpected that even Thaxmore's tactical computer could not process it effectively. No human settlement had ever proposed anything other than surrender or desperate resistance when faced with Zephyrian forces. The concept of a human leader requesting negotiations as an equal was beyond all previous experience. Human, you are in no position to propose anything, Admiral Coraxtel responded. You are facing elimination by superior military force. With respect, Admiral, we are facing an opportunity, Jake replied calmly. An opportunity for both our species to benefit from cooperation rather than destruction. We have developed techniques that could help your people achieve their expansion goals more efficiently. In return, we ask only for the chance to continue our peaceful development. Dr. Sarah Kim activated her holographic display again and transmitted additional data showing the colony's achievements over time. 3 years of careful development had produced results that traditional colonial methods could not match in decades. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable, Admiral Thaxmore said. I recommend establishing a joint research facility on this world. We could study human ecological techniques while providing them with protection from other threats. Both species would benefit from such an arrangement. Captain Veltar finally reached his breaking point. General, this is madness. We are warriors, not researchers. Our mission is conquest, not cooperation. Captain. Our mission is the advancement of Zephyrian civilization. Thaxmore replied firmly. If cooperation can achieve that goal more effectively, then cooperation becomes a tactical necessity. The communication channel crackled with interference as multiple voices began speaking simultaneously from the high command. Thaxmore could hear heated arguments between traditionalist military commanders and progressive strategic planners. The human proposals were forcing a fundamental re-evaluation of Zephyrian expansion policy. Finally, Admiral Coraxtel's voice cut through the chaos. General Thaxmore, you are hereby ordered to maintain current positions while the High Command convenes an emergency strategic session. Do not engage the human settlement and do not allow them to leave the area. Understood, Admiral. Thaxmore replied. I am establishing a protective perimeter around the colony pending further orders. Jake Morrison felt a wave of relief wash over him. It was not victory, but it was not defeat either. The aliens were choosing to think rather than simply destroy. That gave the colonists time to prove that cooperation was possible. Over the following weeks, representatives from both species worked together to document the colony's achievements and explore possibilities for future collaboration. Dr. Peter Hughes shared his ecological research with Zephyrian scientists who had never considered sustainable development as a strategic advantage. Amy Carter established communication protocols that allowed for real cultural exchange rather than simple military reporting. Children from both species learned about each other's histories and perspectives through carefully supervised interactions. Rick Santos worked with Zephyrian engineers to adapt human ecological techniques for use on other worlds. The potential applications were enormous and could revolutionize how both species approached expansion and development. The breakthrough came when elderly Helen Walsh made a simple observation that changed everything. You know, she told General Thaxmore during one of their daily conversations. Your people and my people have the same basic problem. We both need resources to survive and grow, but we are competing for limited worlds instead of learning to share them. 6 months later, the Zephyrian Progressive Council gained enough political power to officially authorize the first joint human-Zephyrian settlement. Ambassador Kethrall arrived on Kepler Colony to establish formal diplomatic relations between the species. Jake Morrison often stood at the same window where he had first watched the alien ships arrive. Now those ships worked alongside human vessels to transport supplies and personnel between different worlds. Zephyrian engineering expertise, combined with human ecological wisdom, was creating settlements that neither species could have achieved alone. The memorial plaque in the colony's central square bore a simple message that captured the transformation that had occurred. Here, two species chose understanding over conquest, and the galaxy became larger for both of them. But Jake knew the real victory was smaller and more personal. It was the moment when a trained killer had chosen to lower his weapon and listen, to an unarmed human speak about gardening and cooperation. Everything that followed grew from that single act of courage and curiosity. Amy Carter now served as Director of Interspecies Relations and often gave tours to visiting dignitaries from dozens of different worlds. The Kepler colony model was being adapted for use throughout the galaxy as other species learned that cooperation could achieve what conquest never could. General Thaxamore had been promoted to Strategic Development Director and spent his time helping other Zephyrian commanders understand that true strength came not from destruction but from building something that would last. The warrior who had killed thousands had become a teacher who helped save millions. And in the purple grasslands under alien stars, human children played alongside young Zephyrians while their parents worked together to build a future that neither species had imagined possible.